systems go. Clear for liftoff.
Oh yeah, we're back talking some fights, pay-per-view baby, UFC 295, 13 fights, hopefully. Looks like we should get 13 fights, 2 5-rounders. It's going to be a good one, man. So pumped for this card, top to bottom. Looks absolutely stacked at Madison Square Garden. Anybody out there going to the fights, very jealous. Should be a great time. I'll be having a great time on my couch watching these as well. $200,000 up top. You love to see that. Big Marley, bring you in. Initial thoughts on this card. How's it going this week, man?
Yeah, sweet card. 13 fights. Hopefully we stick with that. I think it's a good DFS card as well. I haven't done ownership yet, though, so I got some questions on this card. There's some spots I like. There's a lot of fights where I think we could just target both sides of it, hope to get lucky. But looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and hopefully it'll be a fun one to break down.
Yeah, no, this is, like you said, there's some fights that it's a lot of, I love this fight, so I'll play both sides, or I don't like this fight, so I don't like either side, really, is how I'm seeing it. It's a very interesting card. Of the 13 fights, 12 of them have a no favorite, a -2. So Jamal Emers, -255. He's the second biggest favorite on the card at $9,400. Then you have Mateus Rebecky all the way up at -550 to -650. But that means 12 fights have favorites at -250 or less. So I'm definitely expecting some underdogs to come through. Salary when we get to these, like there'll be a lot of money line equity on some of these dogs just because the nature of the pricing. DK is not going to price people the same. They want to go 8,200, 8,000, 8,379, 8,478, etc. So we got like -130, -140 favorites at 8,800. So when we go by, definitely think it's a card you can leave salary on. 2 5-rounders makes it very interesting as well. If you don't play any 5-rounders, instantly you're different. If you just fade one of them or you play 1 5-rounder, get a little different there. They will be the highest owned combined fights on the card. So that's my overview breakdown. Any initial thoughts for you before we go fight by fight, Marley?
No, I don't think so. I think the mid-range will be popular this week. I'm hoping it's not. I mean, it's got to be with those two title fights, but just all around the mid-range is where I want to be. So I feel like me in the field might be similar this week. And I think the leaving salary on the table might be the way to go.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that part up too. Leaving salary can always help you get different, but if you want to get a different build, mid-tier is going to be very, very popular. The 2 5-rounders, Pat Sabatini, Diego Lopez, absolutely great fight to target. Sadikov and Slaviklaus, great fight to target. So many great fights in the mid-tier. I like the mid-tier a lot too, no secret. That's where a lot of roster construction is going to go. So if you go stars and scrubs, you will have a different build right from the get-go. Right there, G. Kiefer in here, Sean Sullivan, I'm the Great, Brent, Bull in here, Big Driggs, Mark, what is going on, everybody? If you're watching on live, watching on playback, we appreciate it. Another week, living the dream over here, talking some fights. Big boy card tomorrow, very excited for it. As we always ask, just like button, helps us out a ton, subscribe button as well. And if you do want to join us at shipitnation.com, head over, $69 a month. 6-month package comes out to $59 a month. And our annual package comes out to $49 a month. NBA is going on right now. Huge night yesterday. Nice slate today. NHL is going on. Pretty good slate as well. MMA right tomorrow. NFL, of course, going on. We have early Germany. I think it's back in Germany. 7:30 game. 9:30 Eastern Sunday morning as well. So we'll have content for that. We have Tiers NFL content, afternoon content. Excuse me. Of course, showdown content as well. Everything you need to be successful for one low price. Projections, ownership, great community in Discord, core reports. Head over to shipitnation.com. Give it a try. That's enough of that, though, Marley. 13 to talk about. Please just keep 13 fights for us. We'll start first fight of the night. Jamal Emers taking on Denis Bazooka. 9,400 Emers, 6,800 Bazooka. Looking at the odds, Emers -255, which is the second biggest favorite on the card. Bazooka +215. This fight's +170 to finish. Emers plus 210, Bazooka plus 675. So just looking at this fight right away, Bazooka looks like great money line or win equity for the price. Not often do you see a $6,800 fighter about plus 200. However, because of the nature of this card, it's not that great at the end of the day. Now, I think it's fine. As far as Jamal Emers, he's going to be one of the lowest owned people in the top tier. I think one of the lower owned fighters on the whole card. He just doesn't really score too well. He has passed in this one, averages about 2 takedowns per 15, about 5 significant strikes per minute. Most of his fights have gone to decision, though. It's going to be very low owned cumulative, one of the lowest owned on the card. I agree with that as well. I'm just using these guys to get different in larger field stuff, but in 20 entry and below, if I had to pick, maybe it'd be Bazooka just because of the price. But like I like Rebecky way more for $200 more than Emers. And I like the Dern, Benoit St. Denis of the world for less than Emers. So I guess dog or pass, but I don't think Bazooka is very good. This is more of a fight fade to kick it off from you. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Emers should win this fight. I just think he's the better fighter anywhere it goes. But the striking's probably pretty close. He's been knocked out a couple times before. So I think Bazooka's in play for the knockout mostly, which would be a high score if he gets it. But I just think there's a lot of underdogs who are in play for a knockout and a lot that can win decisions as well. So I'm going to get away from the Bazooka side. And I agree with Emers being a low-owned favorite. And he probably does spend too much time striking in this fight where his biggest advantage would be to wrestle. And if that's the case, if he is striking, he's probably not going to outscore that $9,400 price tag. But if he does go out there and wrestle, he can score well, even in a decision. He scored 109 a few fights back in a decision win. When he did decide to wrestle, he landed like 5 takedowns, had 6+ minutes of top control time. And I think that's super in play here. And he could score 120. He could wrestle even more than he did in that fight. So I don't mind him at low ownership. But I do think, yeah, the names you mentioned are better plays on paper. They have better metrics. They probably do score more. But I don't hate getting some Emers exposure, especially at low ownership. If you told me he was going to be 30% owned, then I'm just completely off this fight. But I could see a path to victory for him, even in a decision that scores well. So I'm picking Emers to win all 3 rounds, and hopefully he wrestles.
Yeah, so you'd lean the Emers because I've been going back and forth on. I really hate this fight. Like in 20 teams or less, I probably will have none. My initial, I take one as fade and one as underweight, and I was going back and forth on them. You'd rather play Emers at low ownership even with the price than you would Bazooka. Any win.
Yeah, because I would say that my biggest issue with Emers is mostly his fight IQ.
Yeah,
and
it's awful.
In this fight, it would be that he just doesn't wrestle. But even if he doesn't wrestle, I see him winning the fight. It's just on DraftKings, he probably doesn't score well. Yeah, so for me, it's just out on Bazooka, praying he doesn't kill me on the first fight with the first round knockout. And I just see Emers kind of winning every round. Maybe they're close, though, if it is all striking. But if this guy wrestles, if he lands 1 to 2 takedowns in each round, I think it's going to be clearer where even these idiot judges won't get it wrong.
No, I agree with you. I think Emers is better all around. Maybe because right now I have Bazooka under Emers is the fade for less than 20, and I was going to cap Bazooka at like 10%, so hardly get any of this fight. But the more we're talking about it, like Woodson took down Bazooka 4 out of 5 times. He's still only 26. It was on short notice. He's with Longo in the gang, so I like all that stuff. But Emers is definitely the more talented. Like you look at his UFC record, split decision against Giga, which was really close. The Jack Jenkins fight, he probably should have won. So his record is a little deceiving there. Maybe I'll switch and go underweight Emers because he does have some wrestling upside. But at the end of the day, he's going to need a big boy because I think we're going to see some pretty big scores up in this top range. So, yeah, if you want to play either of them, they're going to be low owned. You can eat chalk around it. Not a great fight. One of my least favorite fights on the card, though, in terms of DFS to start it off. Now, Emers, he also did miss weight by 1 pound. He was one of the 2 fighters to miss. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, we got, hold on, let me find it. Yeah, this should be fun. Joshua Van taking on Kevin Borjas, 9,200 Van, 7K for Borjas. Looking at the odds, about minus 225 for Van, plus 190 for Borjas, minus 145 for this fight to finish. Van plus 150, Borjas plus 285 inside the distance. Throw it to you right away. Just looking at the inside the distance prop. I think this is an interesting fight to target on both sides, and I'm excited for real life wise as well as DFS. What about you?
Yeah, it should be a fun one. I think it'll be a contender for fight of the night. Van, he's really fast. He has great boxing. He threw 245 total strikes in his UFC debut, so I love the pace. But he is really just a striker only. And in that debut fight, which wasn't that long ago, Senko said that he had only been wrestling for 6 months. So I have a hard time giving him any wrestling edge over anybody in the UFC. And this Borjas guy I think it was a contender series fight, he was just getting out wrestled for most of the time. He wasn't looking to grapple. He had a couple of reversals, but when he was on the feet, that's how he ended up winning the fight, is just he was dominating the other guy while it was standing. So I think we got two high-paced strikers here. Borjas has 8 of his 9. His first 8 wins were all knockouts. So I think he's in play for a knockout. Van was hit a ton, over 100 times in that debut fight. And then I haven't really seen a lot of grappling from Borjas either, but I would just imagine that he has to have the grappling edge if Van's only been wrestling for less than a year. So I think this is just a little bit closer than Vegas does. And even though Van threw 245 total strikes, he only scored 80 DraftKings points. And I really don't see his ceiling being a whole lot higher than that if he's not landing takedowns and he's not getting a finish. So I'm going to be low on the Van side here. I'm actually going to pick Borjas to win just because I think the line value's on his side. I think it could be a really close fight, plays out split decision, goes either way. But I think maybe the more power is on Borjas. He might be the more well-rounded fighter of the two. I was really impressed with Van in that debut fight, and I thought he looked good before that as well. But I think this is closer to a pick 'em fight. So give me Borjas to pull out the upset. I think he'll be pretty low owned as well. So I will be overweight to Borjas, underweight to Van.
Yeah, I lean dogger pass in this one too, especially when it comes to DFS. A lot of that has to do with, I really liked what I saw from Van, still very young as well, but because he's 9,200 and you look at that range, Benoit Saint-Denis 100 less, Dern 200 less, Rebecky 400 more, and of course we're talking about this mid-tier that's absolutely stacked that we prefer all the 5-rounders over them. A guy that's a primary striker, and he can throw a lot of volume. But I think his ownership, he only can be so high owned because Dern's going to be higher owned, Benoit's going to be higher owned, Rebecca's going to be higher owned. He's going to get squeezed a bit in that range. Excuse me. And that's the reason that I'm going to be playing some Van. Because, like you said, he threw 260 significant strikes, landed 125 against Zalgis, who known to slow down fights a little bit. I was very impressed in that one. So I think 150, 160 significant strikes, maybe a late finish is in the realm of possibilities. And I think his ownership will be in check. But I do lean the Borjas side. I mean, the dude hits like a truck, also can throw solid volume. Getting taken down, was it 5 times on Contender Series, controlled for 7.5 minutes? Yeah, I mean, you just don't think Van is going to go for any takedowns in this one. You think it's just 100% going to be on the feet because they got to be free. I mean, it feels like these takedowns, Borjas looks like he has nothing on the mat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Van does either. I mean, having Boros reversing that guy, I think is impressive. I don't know that Van would have been able to do that.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. In my mind, it's kind of just a wash. We're going to see a striking match. But if you had to make me pick who's going to win the grappling match, I'd rather just take the Borjas guy.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. It's a guess, complete guess, and I don't like putting too much money on guesses.
I'm with you. I think it's mainly going to be a striking match. I lean the Borjas side because of the price. If he gets AD in a win, that could be optimal, whereas that wouldn't be on the Van side. So I'm with you there, but I think these guys are going to throw down. I think we see a lot of volume. High striking, would you potentially stack? No chance though, especially on a 13-fight card like this with plenty of live dogs. I think we see multiple dogs come through. No chance I'll be stacking any fights. Yeah, definitely not. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card. John Castaneda taking on Kang Ho Kang, 8,800. Castaneda, 7,400 for Kang. And this was the fight I was talking about. So Castaneda is all the way down to minus 125 at some spots as an $8,800 fighter. This fight is plus 140 to finish. Castaneda plus 235. Kang plus 415. So I expect Kang to be one of the more popular underdogs just because his money line equity. I think ownership is relatively spread out outside of these 5-rounders, Rebecky's of the world. But Castaneda is very interesting because the inside of the distance prop is fine at plus 235. I think he could maybe get a couple takedowns. He's a junkyard dog. I don't know. Can you make a case for Castaneda in this one? Because people are going to look at the price, they're going to see the money line, and they're going to be like, yeah, no chance I'm going to pick Castaneda. I think he's going to be one of the lower-owned fighters on the card. I like what I see. I mean, yeah, Willie Dos Santos, Willie Cat, put it on him in the second round, but that was a hell of a first round, and I look at Santos pretty good. So I don't know. I think I'm leading the Castaneda side over King. Does King have KO upside? Yeah, I mean, he did it last fight for us, so against Godinez, but he's not known for his KO upside. That was Quinones, I think, more so getting a little too aggressive, and they were just throwing bombs, and King connected first. But I think Castaneda has more upside, and he's going to be low owned. That's a side I lean, but I'll still have some Kang. I mean, it could go off as a pick-em, and he's $7,400 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, my honest thought is to just X out Castaneda from my player pool. I do think it's a 50-50 fight, and I actually slightly favor Kang, to be honest with you. So I'm definitely on the Kang side, especially at 7,400. But if he's going to be one of the highest owned underdogs, I just think we can get away from this fight and then maybe hope Castaneda wins a decision. I just don't think he's scoring more than 10x that $8,800 price tag unless he's getting a first round knockout. Even a second round knockout might not get him there. But I think it's pretty close on the feet. I slightly favor Castaneda in a 15-minute striking match. They both got power. Kang's only been dropped once, though, and he's been in the UFC for a long time. So I just don't see Castaneda getting that early knockout. And I think that the grappling edge favors Kang. So I'm on Kang in this one. I think he wins a close split decision, but I do think he could go out there and wrestle in each round and score 90 plus even in a decision, which I like. So maybe it's just an ownership play on both sides, as in like Castaneda, he's in play because nobody else will be playing him type thing. And then Kang, I could get away from because he's going to be too highly owned. But my first thoughts just to be overweight on Kang and fade Castaneda.
So because Jonathan Castaneda wrestled in college at Mankato. He has a wrestling background, 3 takedowns in his last 2 fights, averages about 1.7. You think Kang's the much better wrestler in this one? Like, I think he's the better grappler for sure, but
I don't know about much better, but I just think that he's more dangerous on the ground, and I would think he's more likely to want to get it there since I favor Castaneda to win the striking mainly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think Kang, people are going to see. I hope the money line even keeps closing. He's going to be one of the more popular dogs. And on a card like this, especially in a fight that's supposed to go to decision, I don't even love Kang's upside that much. So I'll be underweight there. And Castaneda, I don't know. It's gross. I'm not sure we need to do it on a 13-fight card. Like if Sheets was on here, he'd be like, finally, we have 13 fights, 2 5-rounders. It's not worth playing these like we always do. Like an 11-fight card, there's no doubt I'm playing Castaneda. Direct leverage, very low owned, only so many combinations. Maybe on this 13-fight card, I can go under on Kang and even with the field on Castaneda, which could be like 12% or something. But you get direct leverage off a chalky dog. And I do like Castaneda to win this fight. It is pretty close though. So the more we talk about it, it's probably more of a fade. You can get different, leave some salary, go stars and scrubs, maybe some better routes to get different. But I'll go Castaneda. You'll go Kang. Kang definitely one of the more popular dogs for the price and the money line equity. Keep it rolling. Again, we appreciate that like button, that subscribe button. Hope everybody out there has had a good week and has a good weekend, has some fun plans coming up. Jared Gordon, Mark Madsen, 8,900 Gordon, 7,300 for Madsen. Looking at the odds, Gordon minus 220. He's taking some steam overnight. Mark Madsen coming about plus 185. This fight is plus 195 to finish. Gordon plus 285. Marco Madsen plus 550. Another very low owned. I mean, we're getting all these low owned top tier fighters out of the way. I think Gordon's going to be low owned. Jamal Emers is going to be low owned. Castaneda low owned. So I'll throw it to you, I guess. Who would be your favorites of those 3 in tournaments? And do you have any interest on the Madsen side? What are you doing in this one?
Who was Gordon, Castaneda? Who was the other one?
Emers, the first one we talked about.
Emers. Actually, Gordon would be my favorite just because this is my favorite fight to target of the three. I think that this could be on the Gordon side, high pace, and with a lot of grappling. Madsen, if he's going to win this fight, it's got to come with a lot of wrestling, especially in the first half of the fight. And if he does win, I expect him to score more than 10x. And I think Madsen's a fine play for that reason. But if he does wrestle in that first round, I expect him to start slowing down. And when he slows down, I think Gordon just picks up the pace and kind of takes him into deep waters, maybe drowns him in the second or third. But even in a decision, I think Gordon can go out there and out wrestle Madsen, who's going to have nothing to offer off his back, except maybe a guillotine. And Gordon could put up 90 plus, 100 plus points in a decision win, especially if he goes out there and wrestles the first round. If he just never lets Madsen get off on it and Gordon goes and shows he's the better MMA wrestler, I think Gordon has a high ceiling even in the decision. I also think he's in play for a knockout in any round. I like him to be the better striker. So Gordon is the guy I plan to have leverage on. So my order would be Gordon, Emers, Castaneda out of those three. And then Madsen, I do want some exposure to, but I think it'd be more like a 15, 20% at most as a hedge to my possible leverage on Gordon.
Yeah, I just, for how I rank him is Emers. I think Emers, Castaneda, Gordon. I think I get everything, all your points for sure. Gordon throws good volume. He can mix in his own wrestling. He has very good cardio. Madsen slows down as the fight goes, all that. But I'm worried about, at least early in the fight, like I don't know how, I'd be surprised to see Gordon out wrestle the Olympian and Mark Madsen early when they're fresh. And I think Madsen has success with takedowns early, which means I think Gordon could be going into round 2 with 4 points or something because Madsen was able to stay safe on top for 3 minutes, or Gordon's scared about the takedowns early, so he starts a little slower pace or that. And he's 8,900, more of a decision guy. And Mark Madsen definitely slows down, which is a worry, but he still has made it to, I mean, against Austin Hubbard, who's a cardio guy, very boring, unanimous decision. Clay Guida, cardio guy, can push the pace, so split decision there. Vince Pichel was still a unanimous decision. So I think Madsen can survive enough and at least win early. Like you said, the first half of the fight's big for Madsen. I lean that side because of the price. He averaged over 3 takedowns, an Olympian wrestler, very good when it is on the mat. I worry with his age, with his cardio for sure. The pick is Gordon because I think Madsen probably wins round 1, Gordon maybe 2 and 3, and I'll be looking for a live betting entry for the Gordon side. But in DFS, yeah, he does have that. Like if Madsen dies, you break him in the second, third, the Dolby of the worlds as we saw last time. But I won't get there in 20 entry and below. Madsen I think's fine, but I think he loses. There's other dogs I prefer. Let's keep it rolling.
A lot of that was just how bad Madsen looked in his last fight against Dawson.
Dawson.
Yeah,
I respect Dawson.
Gordon's no Dawson,
yeah,
but he's like a poor man's Dawson. He can do all that same stuff, and it worked pretty easily against Madsen. So I feel like Gordon can do the same thing. And I like guys who can go a hard 15 minutes while they mix in the wrestling too. So yeah, Gordon, I just think he's a sneaky good pay up for this week.
Maybe when I'm finalizing things, I'll make he's not going to be overweight tag. Maybe I go fade to underweight tag, but because I do hear you, and it was Dolby. We talked all about it last week too, and I still was like, all right, no, 20 or less, Bonfim's going to kill him early, which he dominated early. But when cardio goes and those junkyard dogs have the cardio and take over, Gordon is one of those guys. So I hear you. There are definitely other favorites and upper tier fighters I do prefer though for their ceiling. We'll keep it rolling. This is a great fight. Very fun. Real life one in the mid tier. Nazim Sadikov taking on Slavikov Borchev. 8,500 Sadikov, 7,700 for Borchev. This fight, Sadikov is about minus 150, minus 140 range. Borchev about minus 125 or plus 125, plus 35 on the way back. This fight is minus 170 to finish. Sadikov plus 160, Borchev plus 210 inside the distance. Such a great fight, man. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I like Borchev in this one. I expect a striking match. Sadikov trains with a bunch of killer grapplers and wrestlers. But that doesn't mean he is a killer grappler and wrestler. I do think his biggest edge in this fight would be to try and get it to the ground. But I don't know if he's a guy who can go 15 hard minutes if he is looking to mix in wrestling when he is a striker. So I think he's getting the fight he wants. He probably thinks he can win the striking here. And I just disagree. I like Borchev to be the better striker, the more dangerous striker. And I'm going to take him to get a knockout at some point. And he's got 2 knockout wins. One scored 134, the other scored 112. Sadikov has 2 finishes as well. One scored 82, the other scored 78. So I just think that I would much rather pay less for Borchev, and Sadikov's another guy that I'm looking to fade. I'm trying to get as many fades as I can, but I think we probably hit them all at this point. And it's all like the further into this card we go, it's like I want to be all in on these fights. So Sadikov's one I feel pretty decent about getting away from, and I don't think he'll be like super low owned. I think people expect him to go out there and out grapple Borchev. So I'm just fading that narrative. Give me Borchev by knockout.
See, I think Borchev is going to be higher owned than Sadikov, and I like the Sadikov side mainly for that. I think the $800.
I do think that as well, but I just don't think that he's like overlooked.
For sure.
I think, yeah.
No, I agree. Maybe like they're both 25% or something. I don't think it's by any means a wide gap. Yeah, you want to see the victory dance from Slava Claus. It's always funny. He hits the hey. I love seeing it as well, especially when I'm on the Borchev side. I'm leaning Sadikov. Everything you said, I totally agree. What I'm thinking is, I think we do see Sadikov put on those wrestling shoes, though. I just respect Longo and the gang and everyone, the Sterlings of the world, the Marabs of the world. He's at a full camp. Like, how dumb would you have to be to come in and be like, all right, let's strike with one of the best strikers when this guy's been taken down 20 times in 2 fights? Of course, it was Mark Diakese and Mike Davis, but I mean, Mike Davis is a great striker, and he was like, yeah, let me put on these wrestling shoes. I think Sadikov, when he feels Borchev's power, he's going to be like, yeah, no, thank you. And we really haven't seen him do it too much, but I think he's better and more skilled. Like, I think he's a skilled all-around fighter. I just think he likes striking, and he's better than most people in the striking match that stands across from him. So I do think we see, and the line has to indicate, he opened minus 350, did Sadikov, and he's all the way down.
Jesus.
But the line's saying he's going to come out there and grapple, because if you're telling me it's going to be on the feet for 15 minutes, I mean, I think Borchev will probably knock him out. Evan Elder outstruck Sadikov in that one. It was pretty competitive, but I'm expecting him to put on the wrestling shoes. Borchev has had no takedown defense. Mainly it came down to, though, like, if I had to bet it, I'd bet dog or pass for sure. Give me that plus money, no doubt. But when I think ownership will be pretty similar, maybe Borchev even a little higher owned, and Sadikov, I think, will try and wrestle. Does he have success? Maybe not. If he doesn't, he gets knocked out, and I love this fight anyway. But I do think we at least see him attempt multiple takedowns. When he is on top, he is pretty good. It's a ground and pound. So I got Sadikov by submission, just mainly Borchev's takedown defense. I have not seen anything, but yeah, I get the Borchev love for sure, and I'll definitely have some. He has as much upside at the end of the day as anybody on this card. His striking is that legit. So great fight to target, and it's going to get ownership, but it only can get so much ownership because that mid-tier with 2 5-rounders, Aspinall, Pavlovich, and Alex Pereira, Yuri, like, you only can play so many people in that range, which will keep their ownership not low, but it can only get so high. And I love this fight for sure. So I'll go Sadikov, but if I had to bet, dog or pass, in my opinion. Keep it rolling. Probably the lowest. This or the first fight of the night. The Emers Bazooka, or this one, I think, is the lowest owned combined fight of the card. Lupita Godinez taking on Tabitha Ricci. 87 Godinez, 7,500 for Ricci. This fight, or Godinez about minus 180, Ricci plus 150. This fight's plus 275, the most likely fight to go the distance, or plus 275 to finish. This fight's the most likely to go the distance. Godinez plus 375, Ricci plus 650 inside the distance. Both girls are solid. I think both girls can wrestle, but I think the wrestling negates himself really in this one. And I think Lupi, the stronger fighter, like if Ricci tries to shoot for takedowns, I think Lupi can stuff him. I think Lupi's the better striker. And it's just going to outvolume Ricci at the end of the day. And at 8,700 in a decision, it's not something I'm really interested in. So if I had to pick a fighter in this card, I prefer Ricci just because of the price. And I'm confident it goes to decision. It's judges. Who knows what judges get it? I think it's probably pretty close. I think Godinez wins a decision, but it's not Ricci wins the decision and scores 80. At least she's live to possibly get to the optimal, whereas Godinez isn't. So I'm picking Godinez. If I had to pick a DFS fighter, it's dog and Ricci, but I think the full fade. It's not a hot take, but I like that route the most.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Well, as in how I think the fight's going to go down. I think that the grappling wrestling probably cancels out. And if it's on the feet, I do like Godinez to be the better striker and just not score enough to pay off that $8,700 price tag. But man, it's hard to fade this fight when both of them are primarily grapplers at their best. And if either one of them has 3 rounds of grappling success, they could score 100 points and it won't be 2 owned. So I don't know, man. I'm fine with either side of this. I think it's going to be more. I'm not going to get it in my single entry, but I'm fine letting the solver do its thing. Maybe I even up their projections a little bit if they're going to be low owned, just for that potential grappling. But I prefer the other side. I prefer Godinez on this card because I've just faded 3 favorites, and I would rather just pay up for a Godinez who I think she's a better wrestler too. And man, when she looks to wrestle, she can dominate on the ground and really put up big scores. So I love the ceiling for Godinez. She would be my preferred play. And I would be pretty surprised to see Ricci just out grapple her for 3 rounds when I could see Godinez being able to do that. So probably plays that on the feet, but I'm going to get some exposure hoping that it's a grapple fest.
No, I hear that for sure. It's like, yeah, you said when she does decide to wrestle. The thing is, like, you look at some of her matchups. Elise Reed, last fight, she decided to wrestle 5 takedowns. Totally makes sense. Emily Ducote fight, though, only 1 takedown. That's definitely a fight she could have taken an easier path. Cynthia Calvillo fight. Yeah, I guess I still think she could have landed takedowns, but 0 takedowns. The Angela Hill fight's like only 1 takedown. She lost. What are you doing trying to strike with Angela Hill? Then the Carnelosi fight, she got a bunch. Luma. Early in her career, she did. I just think she knows Ricci's a pretty solid wrestler. If she can't, like, if Ricci's having more success in the striking, then I think that's what you want, even if you're playing loopy, because then I think she can get some early takedowns, a stronger fighter. But I just think she has success on the feet. She'll be like, I'm good, wing a decision on the feet, and it scores poorly. But yeah, Mark, women's MMA, take the dog. You can have that mindset every single women's fight, and you'll be profitable. At least you would have been profitable so far the past couple of years. Not a fight I'll get much of. Marley and I disagree a bit. If I had to pick one, I'd go with the dog for the savings, Marley for the favorite with the wrestling upside, and I get that. Next fight, not going to waste too much time in this one over here. Mateus Rebecky taking on Roosevelt Roberts, 9,600. Rebecky, 6,600 for Roberts. Rebecky is the biggest favorite on the card, minus 650, minus 610, somewhere around there. Roberts coming back at about plus 440. This fight's minus 230 to finish with all the win or the finish equity on the Rebecky side, minus 190 inside the distance. Roberts plus 700. So Roberts taking this fight on short notice, second stint in the UFC. He did miss weight by, I believe it was 3 pounds. No shame in that, though. He just got the call less than a week's notice. I mean, I think Rebecky absolutely kills him. The line is saying that as well. I think Rebecky, primary wrestler, can take Roberts down, ground and pound him, find a sub, do whatever he wants with him. And it's more, I'll talk game theory. He's 9,600, the most expensive on the card, but we have plenty of good money line dogs. Like we're talking about Kang at 7,400, who's could go off as a minus 110 pick 'em. Plenty of underpriced dogs on the card. I think we have underdogs come through. So I think we have enough salary for Rebecky if we want him. And he has the most upside by anyone in the top tier, in my opinion. I think he rolls over Roberts. We have the salary for him. I think he might be the highest owned fighter on the card because I think both 5-rounders eat into each other's ownership with how close the odds are. So I think Rebecky probably comes in maybe one of the highest. I think it's the 2 5-rounders. It's Benoit Saint Denis and it's Rebecky. Those are the 6 highest. I'll have Rebecky the highest owned, but I still like it. I think there's enough ways to get different on this card. I say you take your 100 plus and move on, and I'll definitely not have any Roberts. So yeah, give me this one. And before I even go to it, do you see this a factor possibility of getting canceled at all? Seem like fighters miss weight. I do not think it gets canceled because Roberts took this fight on very short notice, so it's almost expecting a weight miss. And 3 pounds isn't crazy by any means. So if it was a full camp, possibly, but why would Rebecky turn down the extra money against a guy that just took it on short notice? And Dana probably wouldn't even let him. I mean, I don't know, but no, I'm not worried about cancellation. And if so, we usually get it before lock anyway. So Rebecky, easy. He'll be popular. I'll jam him. What about you?
Yeah, I like Rebecky because I think we'll have the salary to be able to afford it. Biggest favorite on the card. He's like minus 190 inside the distance. I do think that, man, minus 600, minus 650, I think the line is too wide, like maybe even 10% too wide, to be honest with you. But he would still be the biggest favorite on the card, even with my line. So I like the upside of Rebecky. I think he's going to be the better wrestler, better grappler, more powerful striker, but mainly in the first half of this fight. I don't like how much he slows down. I think Roberts is in play to grab his neck, get a guillotine win. I think he could also crack him with something, just a straight shot while Rebecky's throwing wild bombs, and I think he's in play for the TKO. And if Rebecky slows down, it wouldn't shock me to see Roberts win a decision here. Roberts will be unowned, so I think I want at least 10% Roberts to have a little bit of hedge on the field, especially on a card where I'm fine leaving salary. Like the last card, I set my minimum salary. I don't remember. It was like 500 or 600 is all I was leaving on the table. But this card, I'm fine leaving over 1,000, like 2,000 maybe. I don't even think I'll set any rule for that on the solver. But Rebecky's probably my favorite pay up. Man, him or Saint Denis, who we'll talk about, are just going to be my two favorite pay ups on this card. And if I can't afford Rebecky, then I'm probably going to have Saint Denis in that lineup type of thing. But since I can afford it, I'll probably get a lot of Rebecky, maybe half my lineups or more, and then the 10, 15% Roberts, just because nobody else will be on him. And I think that he's live to win this fight, really by any method.
Hey, I don't hate that. I mean, you can never hate the lowest owned fighter on the card against probably the most popular fighter on the card in a sport like this. So you're making cases for it. I definitely will not get there in 20 or less. I did not plan on having any in 150 either, but maybe for a little more, like a 5. What does 5% do? Burn a couple bucks here and there. When you win, how much do you win? I'm kicking myself from yesterday. I never make rules really in showdown. I went max one running back on both sides. The winner has both running backs on the Bears, and I'm drawing dead to win 300,000 later. So yeah, maybe not how often you win, when you win. Roberts makes all the sense. And I was kicking myself for Dalby last week too. It was like, he has all the pass. I'm really high in Bonfim, but when Dalby wins, he's going to score high because Bonfim dies and Dalby takes over. So, hey, you don't get them all right, but maybe I'll have 5% Roberts, which could even be overweight. Like, you don't need the salary to click Roberts. He could be 3-4% on this card. Maybe he's 5-6, something like that, but you don't need much to be with the field. Maybe you talk me into a little bit so I'm not tilting my ass off when Rebecky dies like Bonfim did. But I'll definitely have plenty of Rebecky in this one for sure. Let's keep it rolling. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Hope everybody out there having a good day. Steve Ersag taking on Alessandro Costa, 8,600. Ersag, 7,600 for Costa. Ersag coming in about minus 190. Costa plus 165 on the way back. This fight is minus 105 to minus 120 to finish. Ersag plus 180. Costa plus 375. Man, Ersag, what a performance. Short notice against David Dvorak last time out. Showed very, very good skill set. He's known for his grappling and his submission game. His striking looked pretty good to me, man. High guard, good leg kicks. Very, very big for the division. Then as far as the other side against Alessandro Costa, the dude, if you guys watch me for a while, you know I love my calf kicks. This dude throws some nasty, nasty calf kicks here. I think it could be a pretty fun fight. However, I'm worried about, I think it mainly plays out on the feet. And if it gets to the second, third round, which is favored to do, over 2.5 is favored, I just don't know how this fight gets to the optimal. And 8,600, 7,600, I like the 7,700 range and 8,500 range, all of those fights more. 2 5-rounders, Sabatini fight, Sadikov fight. So the more I talk about it, underweight, I'd probably end up on this fight. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I originally had it as a 3-star because I'm like, okay, targeting either side of it, but I moved it down to a 2-star because I think it's one I would rather just get away from. I just see Ersag being the slightly better fighter and minute winner and taking this one on the cards, winning 2 or 3 rounds, and just not scoring enough. He scored like 70 points in his last fight, and he looked pretty damn good in that fight. I could see a replica performance. 70 points isn't going to cut it. You could have given him a knockdown, I feel like, at one point in that fight. If he did, he's got 80.
They're so
then
bad at
we're a little
scoring
bit closer, but still
knockdowns.
at 8,600, it's not going to cut it. And I think that Costa, he's going to be the more powerful guy of the two. If there's an early knockout in this fight, I expect it to be Costa. Both guys have submission ability, but I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of wrestling in this fight. So give me Ersag to win mostly a striking match and just not scoring well. So I'll be low on the fight, but I'm fine getting either guy in lineups, 10 to 15 or 10 to 20%, something like that.
Yeah, we have the same mindset. If they hit my builds, fine. If I get like 35%, I'm definitely going to be bumping it down. I think Ersag, I was very impressed. I think he's just a better all-around fighter. If he doesn't get caught, like you mentioned, I think he does pull it off, but not a fight I love too much for DFS. I like all the mid-tier fights more than this one. Talk about a mid-tier fight. Head into one right now. Pat Sabatini taking on Diego Lopez. 8,300 Sabatini, 7,900 for Lopez. Sabatini about minus 115 to minus 120. Wouldn't be surprised if this goes off as a coin flip or pick 'em. Lopez plus 100 on the way back. This fight's minus 165 to finish. Lopez, the underdog, better finishing prop at plus 145. Sabatini at plus 240. So this one's tough for me because Diego Lopez is like, if someone finishes in the fight, I do think it is Lopez. I think he's the better striker, the way more dangerous striker, can knock Sabatini out. And we've seen Sabatini cracked before. And Sabatini is a primary wrestler. He's going to want to get to the mat. Lopez has bad takedown defense because he trusts his guard and off his back so much. And his grappling, he's fine getting taken down. Sabatini, I don't think is going to be scared by any means to do that. It's his easiest path to victory. So I think we either see 5, 6 takedowns, 13 minutes of control time, and a Sabatini decision win, which can score very well, or Lopez catches him with something on his back, he knocks him out on the feet, something along that matter. I prefer Sabat. As far as making a pick, it was really tough for me, but I ended up going with who I prefer in DFS, and that's Sabatini, just because if Lopez just say gets a finish, second or third round, I got to read this comment after. You're laughing, Big Marley, but if Lopez gets a second or third round finish, that still might not be enough on the optimal because Sabatini could have already had 4.5 minutes of control time round one, and Lopez did nothing. Then he catches them at some point in round two, and he scores 75 because that's really all of his points. So I think Sabatini gets it to the mat early. Do you think Lopez can submit him off his back, or do you think Sabatini just grinds away on top, stays safe, and wins a decision that might be boring but could score very well?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm picking Lopez to get a finish, but I think this is just a coin flip where if there's a finish, I expect it to be Lopez. Could be a knockout or could be a submission, but the submission's going to have to come off his back because Sabatini is the better wrestler. And I don't expect a 15-minute striking match. So I think that if he doesn't get the finish, then Sabatini is probably controlling this fight for 13 minutes or something like that and scoring well. So this is just a fight I want to be very heavy on both sides of. Vegas is giving Lopez a 50% chance of winning, but a 40% chance of finishing. So I'll probably want to match around 40% Lopez, like get close to that 40% number, whatever his ITD line ends up closing at anyways, and maybe match the field on Sabatini. But at the same time, I want more Lopez lineups because my favorite Sabatini lineup, I want to just duplicate it and throw Lopez in there, leave the $400+ on the table. So just to have that $400 savings, I prefer Lopez for that reason. And I just love his aggressiveness, and he's nonstop throwing up submissions. I think one of them could grab a hold of Sabatini's neck and finish him. So I would rather root for the Lopez side. He's going to be my pick, but load up on this one. It's going to be a good one that should mainly take place on the ground.
Well, would you be surprised seeing like Lopez is so squirmy on the mat? He'll do anything to get up, grab a leg, whatever it may be. Sabatini grabbing a neck or finding a mistake because Sabatini can grapple too. Black belt. We saw what he did against Emers. Do you think Lopez just being so aggressive off his back and so confident in his BJJ that maybe overconfident and Sabatini finds something when he's doing something, can find one?
I really don't even think it matters. I think any win from Sabatini is going to score well. So yeah, I think he could score the same with first round submission as he could in a decision win. So really, I don't even think that matters too much. It would just suck more for my Lopez lineup scoring nothing. But yeah, as of now, I'm sticking with Lopez is my preferred play. But if if we do ownership and it's showing 35% Lopez, 20% Sabatini, I could change my mind real fast.
Yeah, I don't think it'll quite be like that. I mean, this fight on a normal card, like if there wasn't 2 5-rounders right in the mid-tier, pretty much pick 'em odds, this fight would be way higher owned. But it's similar to the Sadikov fight we just talked about. Both 5-rounders, the Yuri fight and the Aspinall fight, are in that mid-tier. This fight can only get so much ownership. But that's why I'm saying, like, Rebecky and Benoit Saint Denis, everyone's favorite up top. The mid-tier is loaded with the 2 5-rounders, and then Sabatini Sadikov fight, which is good. And then pick the Kang, who's a plus 110 dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's pretty easy to see where ownership is going to go. With 13 fights, though, it's spread out more than usual. But, yeah, I'm not worried about ownership in this fight just because of the 5-rounders. Totally makes sense what you said about preferring the Lopez, because you can have Sabatini in that lineup, drop down, and you save at least 400 on the table or more. I'm just in the Sabatini boat because if he wins, I'm confident he scores well. If Lopez wins, he probably scores well because he finishes. But I do think, like, it could be a second or third round finish when he's already been on his back for 8.5 minutes. And that's one of his few points he only gets, because I do think Sabatini shoots early and often. But Lopez could knock him out, I think, in round 1, too. Like, he stuff an early takedown, something like that. And Lopez, aggressive, strong, puts it on him there. So, yeah, great fight to target. I lean the Sabatini side just for his style. On DraftKings, I think he has more pass, but I like Lopez, of course, in this one, too. Fun fight. Great one to target. Oh, baby, that was a fun fight, but not as fun as this one. Benoit Saint Denis taking on Matt Steamroller for Fola, 9,100. Saint Denis, 7,100 for the Steamroller. Saint Denis coming in about minus 230. For Fola, plus 195. So it's minus 400 to finish. Benoit Saint Denis, minus 130. Steamroller, plus 225. Give me the dog. Give me Matt Fola. Steamroller. I know you're different on this one. I agree. I think Benoit Saint Denis should be the favorite, rightfully so. I just think the line is too wide in this one. People forget, man. You see Matt Fola and what he's been doing recently. 3 first-round knockouts, all of that. This man can wrestle too. This man can grapple. Why I think Saint Denis should be the favorite is the durability advantage. Saint Denis is as durable as it gets. Special force guy. For the French Special Force. We saw what he did against Lesky dos Santos, took an absolute beating, still survived. And Matt Fola has been chin checked multiple times in his career, but I'm buying into this resurgence from Fola. He's huge for the division, hits hard. He has the wrestling, I think, to negate at least some of Benoit Saint Denis' wrestling. I think the line's too wide at the end of the day, and Saint Denis will be one of the highest owned fighters on the card. Give me the leverage. Give me the steamroller. I think Matt Fola knocks out Benoit Saint Denis. How do you see this one going down?
I'm going to be close to all in on this fight, but Saint Denis is going to be one of my highest owned guys on the card. I think Fola is very in play for the knockout. He's a good striker. He's a good wrestler, but I don't think he's a better striker than Saint Denis, and I don't think he's a better wrestler than Saint Denis. And I think Saint Denis is a way better grappler of the two. And I mean, Saint Denis has huge power too, so he could knock out Fola in the first round.
Easily. Like,
he seems non-human. I don't know how he didn't get put away in that Zaleski dos Santos fight. Fovola's probably got more one-shot power than Zaleski. We've seen how hittable Saint Denis is in that fight, so I definitely think he's in play. And if Fola wins, he's going to score 100-plus points, break the slate. So I need to be around field on Fola, but that's probably 25-30%, and I'm cool getting 50-60% Saint Denis because, I mean, Fovola's a decent wrestler, but he was taken down 10 times by Armand, and I love Armand.
I was gonna say there's levels to this though. Armin's a dip. What would Armin do to Benoit?
I don't know. So I'm so impressed. Like, I'm more impressed with Benoit Saint Denis than like anybody else since his Zaleski fight. Like, I thought he was kind of trash at that. And then since then, he's just looked amazing. So I'm buying into the hype at this point. And I just think he's good everywhere. He had a second round finish in his last fight. He still had over 100 significant strikes. He had 5 takedowns. I think he could go out there and get 5 to 10 takedowns in this fight. and finish the fight. So I'm just going to be super high on Saint Denis on a card that there's not a lot of pay ups that I want to get to. He's going to be the one that I'm clicking on, especially with my hand builds. He might be in 80% of my freaking 20 lineups if that's what I end up doing. I'm not sure yet. I might do 150 on this card. And if that's the case, I'll probably limit him like 70% max, something like that. And I'd be fine with damn near 30% for Fola too, and just being all in on this fight with, what is it, a minus 400? Then it doesn't go to decision. But even if it does go the distance, I think Benoit Saint Denis can score 110 plus points. So that's why I'm super high on him. Just think he has more ways to win this fight. I think he does get a finish. And I think he probably scores more than anybody else on the card.
No, yeah, it's like I'll definitely be playing, even though I'm picking steamroll. Like when Benoit wins, it's plenty of takedowns. He's a good striker. He's so tough. He hits like I get all the hype, all the recency. I think some of this line is the recency bias. And Fola has been so good as of late as well. But man, everyone's darling is now Benoit Saint Denis. Like I wish he could fight Arman Sarukian, and I'd be all in on Arman Sarukian. And I mean,
I'm definitely picking Arman too to answer that question. But the line would really ultimately answer that question.
For sure,
so I'd have to see it. But I'm picking Arman over like everybody.
Yeah. Oh, Arman's a problem. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I just think at the end of the day, like I think Fola can. I like his movement on the feet as well, and I think his defensive wrestling, again, one of those Longo boys training with all the studs. Saint Denis very strong for the division. I mean, freaky strong. So Fola is very big for the division too. It's gonna be a banger, man. I'm so pumped for this one. And yes, as you said, the local boy is Steamroller. Was at the Garden last time out as well. So pumped for this fight. Give me the dog. Big Marley on the favorite. It's a fight you want exposure to. There's no doubt about that, though. My pick for a fight of the night, but it might not even last long enough to be fight of the night. Keep it rolling. A couple fights left on the card. 3 fights left on the card. Again, all of our content will be up on the site today. All my stuff will be up before NBA Lock, Marley's as well. Projections, ownership, fight breakdowns, fight rankings. And again, if you do join, make sure to get in the Discord too. NBA going on, NHL going on, NFL going on, PGA going on. No better price in the industry. $69 a month, $59 a month it comes out to for a 6-month package. An annual package, $49 a month it comes out to. Head over shipitnation.com and do get in the Discord if you do join. All these fights are so good, man. I mean, like that's what we talked about early in the card. Excuse me. Not a great fight. You can't play every fight because these last on this main card, I don't know how you can fade these fights. They're so good. This one, right? Another one. Mackenzie Dern, Jessica Andrade, 9,000 for Dern, 7,200 for Andrade. Dern is minus 200, plus 170 on the way back. For Andrade, this fight's minus 200 to finish. Dern minus 115. Andrade plus 400. This just feels like the UFC knows what they're doing. Andrade has not looked like the Andrade as of late. Mackenzie Dern looked career best last time out. I mean, we saw Erin Blanchfield the second she was able to get a takedown. It was pretty much over after that for Andrade. Dern, one of the best grapplers in the world. Feels like one takedown, it might be all she wrote. My question to you before you break it down, who has the striking advantage in this one? And I never thought I'd say that even last year, but I mean, Blanchfield outstruck Jessica Andrade, and Dern's definitely been working on her hands. What Andrade are we at in her career? Who do you think has a striking advantage, and what are you doing in this one?
So yeah, I'm picking Andrade to win because I think she has the striking advantage here. And I think if she can use her wrestling to keep this fight standing, she wins this fight on the feet. And she's in play for a knockout too. The knockout gives her 100-point potential. But even in a striking match, like we're less than a year removed from her scoring 131 DraftKings points in a 15-minute striking match. I mean, that was against Lauren Murphy, but still 131 in a 15-minute striking match. Very impressive. And then what was it? Dern, when she fought Tisha Torres, that was last April. I mean, April 2022. She didn't land a single takedown against Torres. And in April of 2022, Jessica Andrade was submitting Amanda Lemos at that point. So, like, how much has Andrade really declined since that time? And how much?
I will say that Lemos fight, though, I think she got lucky, I think, for that standing guillotine. Lemos was kind of piecing her up and she grabbed it. But I do hear you for sure. It's only a year removed, not even, when the line would probably be flipped in this one. I mean, it'd have to be.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Dern's striking looks way better, but I think those people aren't as good as strikers as Andrade, and I think that the line is just a lot of recency bias both ways. So people really down on Andrade and people really high on Dern. I do think one takedown, Dern probably mops the floor with Andrade en route to a submission. But I mean, she's got 5 takedowns in her last 2 fights, and she didn't get a submission in those 2 fights. I don't think it's just a lock that she's going to submit her. And if she does get maybe the takedown in the first round, she dominates that round. They're still starting on the feet in the second round. Give me the shot at Andrade to still win the second and the third. So I'm picking Andrade to keep this fight standing. She's going to be my preferred play, but Dern is still a top 3 pay up option for me over 8,400, even though I'm picking her to lose. So this will be a fight I'm targeting pretty heavily. And I don't know, what do you think the Andrade ownership will be? Because I don't think she's going to be very owned, and that makes me like her even more. And that's kind of why I'm getting away from these other favorites. I mean, these other underdogs like Bazooka, and there's a couple others that I just don't have a lot of interest in, because I would rather just go to Andrade, and I think she could win all 3 rounds if she's able to keep this fight standing.
I think between 15 and 20%. I think people see what, and that's totally like, and I think for Fola is somewhere right in that range too. Yeah, I mean, the recency, yeah, I agree with recency bias, but yeah, she has looked so bad. Everyone keeps talking the Dern looks so good after divorce. Her dad, actually, Mackenzie's Megatone, one of the best grapplers out there. He goes to the gym I go to. Been talking to him for a while, and he's saying Mackenzie's locked in this one. I'm really pumped for this one.
Andrade also looked really bad against 3 fighters, but all 3 of those fighters I'm picking to beat Dern, and one of them already did, and I already cashed in at like +2 something on Yan Zionin when she fought Dern. I think this is a similar fight to that, so I'm just kind of going back to the well.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like because I'm on Fola over Benoit Saint Denis, and you're on Andrade over Dern, and I'm on Dern. So like they're in the same price range, and they're both great fights to target. Like I'm gonna have all 4 of these fighters in my pool. Sounds like you're gonna have all 4 of these fighters in your pool for sure. But that's where like the 2v2, I'm on the Dern for Fola, you're on the Saint Denis and Andrade. So it makes sense that way. But yeah, such good fights for sure. I'm buying into the Dern, her reassurance. Andrade, I don't know. She could definitely show up, crack Dern once, and it'd be all she wrote, but will be a fun one. Nate D, what's going on? Appreciate you stopping in, hitting the like button. Good luck to you this weekend as well. 2 fights left to talk about. Man, these are 2 fun ones. Both 5-rounders, the interim heavyweight champion of the world on the line. Tom Aspinall taking on Sergey Pavlovich, 8,200 for Tom, 8,000 for Sergey. Looking at the odds, depends where you look. Aspinall a slight favorite at most books, but Bet Online -110 a piece. I think it's probably going to be -110 about that. At close, this fight's -1,400 to finish. This fight is under 1.5 is -215. Pavlovich +110 inside the distance. Aspinall -110. That's what we're talking about. These fights, it's all DraftKings pricing is all based on odds, money line odds, and it has nothing to do with 5 rounds, unfortunately. So all these guys are way underpriced. I'm pumped for this fight. I'm way more excited for this fight than I was John Jones and Stipe. I don't know if that's a hot take or what it be, but I thought Jones was just going to walk through Stipe. And I mean, I would pick Sergey. I'd probably pick Tom over both Stipe and John Jones at the odds I'd get as well. So I'm really pumped for these 2. Who I'm taking, I ain't going against Sergey Pavlovich, man. This man is too big. He's too strong. I totally get it. It's such a close fight. I took Sergey, I think it was like +115, +120, something around there a couple weeks back. I just think at the end of the day, Tom's going to be a little hesitant, and he's standing in front of Sergey. And I think Sergey's defensive wrestling, like everyone's going to go back to the Alistair Overeem fight, his only loss, UFC debut. He was young. Overeem a complete stud. He was a fish out of water on the mat. I just don't think I threw that fight completely out. I think it's irrelevant. I think Sergey's defensive wrestling is much better than it was. I think if Aspinall does try and close the distance, he's going to have to pay for it. And when Sergey touches you, man, they go down. So it's Sergey for me in this one. Sergey get the finish. Yeah, I got Sergey by first or second round knockout. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight was a little slower in the first round, Aspinall being scared about Sergey being scared about the takedown, that little feeling out process. But yeah, I think Sergey in round 1 or round 2. I'll throw it to you though. There's no doubt Tom has more ways to win this fight.
Yeah, I'm on Aspinall on this one. And I don't even agree that it's a 50-50 fight. I think that Sergey is super live to knock him out in the first round. But if he doesn't knock him out in the first round, I think he loses the fight. And I think Aspinall's just as live to knock him out in the first round. Like if they're fighting in a phone booth, I think it's close to a 50-50 fight. Maybe
give me 75-25 in a phone booth.
Yeah, see, I would disagree, but it's not at the same time. And I think Aspinall is the better striker of the two. I also think he would be the more likely fighter to be able to extend his striking longer through the fight. I don't think we're going the distance in this fight. I said that last week too, but I would just be shocked to see one of these guys knock gas out and get put away. But at the same time, if Aspinall can land one takedown, I think he just mops the floor with Pavlovich, and I think he finishes it on the ground in the first round. And that's how I see it going down. I think I think Aspinall is very live to just go out there and piece up Pavlovich on the feet, to be honest with you. But Aspinall, I think, is the best heavyweight in the world. And my main worry with him would be, like, what's he going to look like if a fight does get extended? But I'm not worried about it in this one. I have the same worries about Pavlovich. So I don't think we're going to get an extended fight. But if we did, I would favor Aspinall. So I like Aspinall. I favor him like 60% of the time. So he's my pick. I'm going to be very heavy on him, probably like 70%. The other 30% can go to Pavlovich.
Yeah, see, at the end of the day, and I don't know if it's weird, but I think I trust Sergey's cardio more than I do Aspinall's, because I think Aspinall is going to be moving around, bouncing around so much more, whereas Sergey is just more flat-footed, which can mean Tom Aspinall's piecing him up with a jab. His movement's way better. He moves like a 205er. So I'm not worried about, like, I totally agree with that, but it's just the Andrei Arlovsky fight's always in the back of my head because I've been on Aspinall's side the whole time. But I remember in that second round, he was a little gassed. Thankfully, he got the neck pretty early. But, I mean, how am I going to blame anyone? Coin flip fight. You got Aspinall. I got Pavlovich. Yeah, it'll be a fun one, man. There's no, like, you're not fading Pavlovich. I'm not fading Aspinall. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe you are.
No, I mean, I would say like 70% Aspinall's damn near fading Pavlovich.
70-30?
30% still pretty good amount. It's just an all-in fight because it's the mid-range, and we should get 100 points from the winner in this one. So it's just, I can't really get away from this fight. If this is the one where an hour into the card, we're like, sorry guys, we're here to inform you, I'm just gonna be like, fuck this card, I'm out.
Yeah, let's not even manifest any of that. We got one fight left on the card, man. Another great fight. Alex Pereira taking on Yuri Prochazka, 8,400 for Pereira, 7,800 for Yuri. Pereira coming in about -125. Yuri plus 105 on the way back. This fight is -600 to finish. Yuri is plus 135. Pereira plus 100. First, I gotta say, my man, Sweet Dreams, get better, come back and beat both of these dudes. I got Sweet Dreams over them both. However, in this one, I got Alex Pereira, man. The guys I want to pick against Alex Pereira are guys that are going to take him down. I don't think Yuri's going to go to the wrestling, and Yuri blocks punches with his face. Yeah, he's a brawler. He's very strong. He hits hard. He's a beast. But at the end of the day, give me the technical kickboxer and Alex Pereira with all the power in the world over the brawler that's very hittable. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So I got Pereira in this one. I think he knocks out Yuri doing something not dumb, but just Yuri being Yuri, overcommitting, overextending, and he gets caught at some points and goes to sleep. So, yeah, it's Pereira for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I mean, I'm kind of worried that Yuri mixes in the takedowns because I think the only way Pereira wins this fight is on the feet. I mean, he could win a decision with striking, or he could knock this guy out in any round. But if this fight goes to the ground, that should be all Yuri whenever that takes place. I think he could submit him, knock him out with ground and pound, just grind out time. So there's just more ways for Yuri to win this fight. If Yuri wins this fight, I expect him to score well no matter what. He's only 7,800. So this is like the title fight of the two that I would rather just go 40-40 on. And it's not a complete 100%er on this one because I could see Pereira winning after the first round and just not scoring enough points. But it's right there in the mid-range. Like, we got to be really heavy on it. And I think that it probably does take place on the feet. And I think Jerry's just a little bit too wild and reckless, a little defensively irresponsible. He probably gets cracked at some point. Prayer has the meanest left hook I've ever seen in my life, and I think he lands it at some point. So give me Prayer by knockout. But I think we need it to be the first or the second round for him to be on the optimal.
Yeah, I do agree with that. So the only rule I said, I'm making a rule to have at least one of the 2 5-rounders. However, like more times than not, my lineups are going to have both I'm going to have both of the main events. There's other ways to get difference. But my only rule, like you're going to make a rule to have at least one of Aspinall Pavlovich. That is the fight I prefer as well. I'm just going to have at least one of these 4 in all my lineups. But man, it should be a fun one. Just please, please, please keep all 13 fights on this card. And man, it is going to be a fun one. Again, all of our content will be up on the site. Today, as always, projections, ownership, fight breakdowns, core reports, fight rankings, everything you need. Get in the Discord as well. Always fun and a good time in there. NBA going on, NHL going on, NFL, a big weekend ahead there. Head over to shippingnation.com. Monthly, 6-month, annual packages. Hit that like button on your way out. It does help us out a ton. We do appreciate it. And Hoop and I will be back in 25 minutes talking a little NFL, cash games. Good luck to you, Marley, this weekend. $200,000 up top. Looking to see some Ship It Nation logos up there. Going to be a fun one. 6 p.m. Eastern at the Garden for Big Marley. I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.